normally the witch hazel that you would just heat up for about 10 seconds in the microwave, and then you go around the edges and blend out. But we don't have a microwave.
I didn't want to carry that in. Yes?
Is there any, have any actors like had any like allergic reactions?
Oh, no, it doesn't have to be actors, it's extras.
So
Yeah, yes,
anybody,
they do. Yeah, definitely. And it's always towards spirit gum. So it's one of those ones. Spirit gum. That's why I use Talistis and Prostate. It's designed for the body and anything, yes. So, yeah.
And when they do have the allergic reaction, then they bring in the molders really quick and they cast that nose and they use that. Yes?
Technical question. What kind of brushes are you using, or how do you keep those brushes?
I buy new brushes.
You just buy new brushes?
I do,
Because
yeah.
they get destroyed pretty quickly?
They do, but you're never supposed to leave it up like that. I used to.
Yeah.
You're always supposed to put it on the side, but yeah. I have been cleaning these because mine has been so kind to do that.
We'll get one in the back there. Yes, you in this picture? Yep.
How much does it usually cost to outfit and put prosthetics on a single work?
It's one of those things where I'll break it, do it as a breakdown, that a nose like this will be around $1,000 to $2,000.
Oh.
And so they
Don't sneeze, dude.
yeah.
It'll help it stick on.
Oh, God.
Go ahead, sorry, go ahead. And then the arm that we have on the table, if you guys have been around our booth, that prosthetic arm, just the one is about $4,000.
Oh.
And then you were saying the hair, the wig, $10,000?
Yeah, wigs can be anywhere from $10,000 to $22,000. Orioles is around $22,000. Yeah.
And are those prosthetics single-use type thing? Or
They are.
Yes.
Oh.
That's what keeps the workshop employed. So I was doing the math for everybody when you're out at the booth. We have 13 dwarves, and then you have their stunt doubles, and then we have their miniature doubles, and then their stunt doubles. So you've got arms, all the other prosthetics, the faces, redone every single day. So they're working ahead of time. They need to, but they have different sets for the fight scenes. They have different sets for the close-ups. So there's different versions that we use for all of them. How are we doing on the nose?
Tell me how long do we actually? I've never really done it. We've done shows, but I mean, not for an amazing panel.
Yeah, this is an experiment today, so we wanted to be able to let you guys ask questions. Yes, you in the back on this side? Yeah, that's you. Yep.
Do you 3D print any of your prosthetics?
We don't. We 3D print a lot of our actual garments. So we do a lot of that. So the armor and all those sorts of stuff can be also done on our CNC machine.
Have you guys seen that Green Goblin in the Amazing Spider-Man 2? That suit was done at a workshop, and that was the first fully 3D printed suit. It was actually designed so that the actor and stunt person can do backflips. And when you see it in person, it's pretty impressive, and it's fully flexible. Yeah. Yes, you?
How long did that take to print?
I think that was on the machines nonstop for at least 3 months once they had all the modeling done. There's a lot of pieces, parts, and then there's a lot of fine tuning to get it right. On the actor?
Do you try and reuse the stuff that you guys create for different films, or do you just start fresh and make new stuff every time?
They start fresh. They might use the pieces or the extra pieces just to prototype something, just when they're in the early concept phages to show a director. But generally, we start from scratch.
Well, that's it. No, we're going to start on this next one. I'll come back to that. No, it's generally I glue these on, but ears you always have to have an ear on. Again, double-sided sticky tape loops, so these are really stunt ears. This is all from our stunt department. Normally the ears would be silicone as well as the arms, and made of this.
What do you think? Is Chase still looking good? His girlfriend's just right down here in the front. They said they like dwarves. Any questions? So how long does it take for you to get that beer put together, like prepped and ready to go?
Well, sometimes, because we normally, it depends on what kind of dwarfs they are. There's dwarf traders, there's refugees, all different kinds. So if they're dwarf traders, there's gems and jewels and sterling silver, beautiful, beautiful things.
So Warner's responsible for actually designing the beers and the concepts in the physical form, and you show them to the director, and then they would try different looks. And if you come by the booth and you look through some of the Chronicles books, you can see the different beer types that he's done and designed for the film.
Well, we've talked about how long it takes to put on the stuff. Let's talk about the other process. How long does it take to get off?
Quick, a lot quicker. Rip, and go on. The blues are taking makeup off themselves, so they've done that as well. But it's one of those things that, I don't know, it's all trial and error a lot of the times with the film.
So it doesn't matter if they rip the prosthetics?
No, because you're never going to use them.
I feel like the arms, those the one when they get chopped up. Question over on the side? No? Right here?
So what do you do with the, like after filming and they take it off, is it just get thrown away or recycled or?
What was that?
What are the old?
What do you do with the old props?
The props, no, they go into
Or
storage.
The,
props, yeah.
I mean like the
makeup.
The makeup, all the prosthetics will get cut up, the arms will get cut up.
So usually, like whenever you see like a prop up for auction, you know, some of the shows and stuff, those are usually pieces that are given to an actor or director, and then secondhand they kind of get out of the market. But generally, all that stuff just gets destroyed, or we'll keep one or two pieces, like the arm we have, just for demonstration purposes. We have a tour in the workshop, so if you ever come down to New Zealand, you can get a tour through the workshop, and then we keep pieces there just for demonstration purposes to show how it works. So what do you think? Do you think he's starting to look like a dwarf yet?
Yeah.
So we're doing a very compressed version here, so you can imagine what it would be like if he's getting full makeup. Yes?
So many of the features that are designed are really oversized, like giant noses, ears, everything. Do you ever have problems in the design of matching scales to the actual actor's head?
Well, I think
Even
that's
the eyes or anything like that?
just from the design standpoint. I think they do that on purpose to exaggerate the scale. But you want to talk about working for an actor?
On all the different scale?
Yeah.
Well, with the scale dwarves, you've got little tiny 5-foot people, 4'5", and they play every movie. So there's a Thorin, there's a stunt Thorin, there's a stand-up Thorin, there's a scale Thorin. So they have to be replicated 4 times, 3 times. Yeah. Every one of them.
Yes, you said it.
Yeah, how did you get into the filming makeup industry? What was that road like?
I was in the beauty industry first, so it's different working from the beauty industry, then going into books. No, not really.
Beauty is the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, well, that's true. And underneath all the orcs, costumes and all that are amazing looking people. They look like models.
So he has an interesting story he can tell you about how he actually got discovered. So he's here.
Oh, yes. One of their co-founders, Richard Taylor's mother, she told me, and also told me that Peter and Richard were filmmakers. And I said, oh, that's interesting, and I always wanted to do something like that. I always wanted to be a celebrity hair and makeup artist, but I didn't know how. So I faked it, and then I made it, really. Actually, in the makeup industry, it's very cutthroat, because the makeup artists all want jobs to themselves. And they fly everywhere, where I just, I tend to stay put.
So as soon as he's leaving Portland, he's not going to even go home back down to the South Island in New Zealand. He's got a film working with a director named Steven something. Yes, Steve Spielberg. Yeah. So he keeps busy, and he also does fashion and photography and other films too. So So how are you doing it now?
Well, we're just, a lot of these products were shipped in, so we just learning to work with the spiricum. So really after this it's just, now that that nose is dry, I can go over that and powder it and then speckle this on. How long do you get in that on the panel?
We have till 2:45, so we got a little bit of
Oh.
time.
And you just hold this.
I want to talk about tattooing. Like, how do you guys make the tattoos real? How do you keep the continuity of the intricate designs from being too obviously wrong?
So you just lick it and stick it.
They are done in our paint department. They before anything is done, you will have the director and the conceptual design artists at meetings all the time. So it begins there. And then you have a show and tell once everything's done. And if the director likes it, he'll approve it, and then we have a job. So it is, that's how it runs. And then we can start manufacturing things. It's a supply and manufacturing company, which is great.
So how do you replicate the tattoos that we set?
They're all transfers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't far off?
Yeah, you stick them on, sorry.
Any questions? Yes. Yep.
Do you ever get to do your own designs, or do you just basically get sent a fully realized concept?
Concepts, that's the conceptual designs, the artists that work like that.
Okay. Have you
Yeah.
ever gotten to do
Designs, when it comes to extras in there, yeah, because sometimes they're not featured, but they're featured in books. So,
Is that something you're interested in?
I do, I like that. It would be wonderful to do this. It's always a wonderful dream to win your own Oscar.
What inspires you when you get to make your own stuff?
All the people I work with, because it's all of those people that I work with, their dream was to develop themselves, and that's how
So other creative people.
our main philosophy is tenacity. That's one of the things. You constantly do things over again. Enthusiasm is one of the biggest things. Passion and then skill. Those are the four fundamentals, the four principles of Richard Taylor, and he always says that to me. One thing that we were talking about, one thing we were talking about was our first jobs we ever had, and I said I worked in a battery in, this was years ago, in the 80s, and then he told me, he goes, oh, well, I can beat that, I can clean toilets here in New Zealand. That was his first job, moving in school, and it was so humble, and now everything's on the airplane, in New Zealand, so I think that is amazing. He's the most humble man to work with, and he's been a good friend.
Has anybody seen the Air New Zealand safety video?
Yes.
So Warren and I actually were doing a special event up at Hobbiton the day that they were filming the opening sequence. So we were just like, for me, to the front row where the people were jumping up out of their seats and running off into Hobbiton. And then that night was actually the first night that he did his hair and prosthetics for a special event where I got to see what a rock star he is, and said, you're coming with me to the Comic-Cons in the States and Sydney and Australia. The other thing was when that video first came out into the planes, Richard and I were going up to an event in Auckland, and Richard was like 2 rows up and over on the aisle, and I was on the aisle. And the video comes on, and Richard's a tall man. Have you guys seen Richard Taylor in person? He's about, what, 6'2"?
6'4".
Very, very striking presence, maybe 6'4", yeah. And he's sitting in the seat, so he fills up the seat, and he's very distinguished looking. I mean, you know who he is. But no one's paying attention to this gentleman, and then all of a sudden the video comes on, and if you look at the video, Richard's playing, he's a little tiny guy sitting in a seat next to a giant orc, and they hand him the oxygen mask, and they put it on him. So people are looking at the video, and all of a sudden they and the flight attendant walks down, and she's looking, and then by the end of the flight, everybody's off the plane with their flight magazine, because they had an article about that, and they're trying to get a signature on it. That was a bit of a kick. So how are you blending? Yeah.
Because I've just let those things dry. I didn't. There's no PowerPoint for any dryers or anything. Normally I would get a blow dryer and dry the prosade. A lot of the times you'd never put prosade with lace. It's one of those things that destroy the lace, but on this instance we have to.
What would you normally use?
Spherica. That's how that one, yeah.
We to lease the spirit gummer considered dangerous goods, so we couldn't bring our own from New Zealand, so we had some shipped from a supply company here, so this is the first time we're using it here, so it's a bit of an experiment. Yes, sorry, in the dark.
Do you need to put anything over the eyebrows at all?
You can, but sometimes when you put the eyebrows, a lot of the times it's spirit gum, powder, and then apply. Or sometimes for the dwarves, it's a whole silicone face and nose. That's why you just stick it on and it's already done.
So his eyebrows will go back in about a dedication. Any other questions? Yes.
How many hair and makeup artists were hired for the experience?
With the workshop, is different from 3+7, which is we film the Hobbit. So what happens with this is there's around 20 makeup artists on set. They're all well-known makeup artists who work on movies all around the world as well. And then they fly in from all over. But then there's prosthetics, there are around 17, and also the hair and makeup, and the designers. Yeah, there's a lot of those.
All the way in the back corner.
What kind of powder do you use over the spirit gum?
I like to just use pressed powder. Yeah, just make it like that.
Yes.
Going back to the 3D printing, what material do you use for that suit to make it so flexible?
I'm not sure.
It's the Flexi. There's all different coats of urethane. So these we call them CC50, CC60, a high density urethane. Men as well, so those sorts of things. So there's many different kinds. You would know.
I don't.
We just work. Well, you know a lot of things as well. But we all work together as well. Like we're a workshop in all different departments. We have many different departments which we work from. But there's many different kinds, and we use that also for our props, our weapons. Sometimes it could be just plastic, or different kinds of urethane. Yeah.
Different densities and bendable materials depending on their stunt or their action movements that you evolve before you want to store it and stick in somebody's life. Yeah.
So at the Weta workshop, they encourage training in other departments, kind of like is that a strength there that they can use use your creative differences to make everybody stronger, I guess?
Sometimes when there's no work for me, I will then go and work in the paint department. So sometimes I always go to my friends and say, "Get a job for me while I'm waiting." And this is one of those things that when there's jobs going, there's amazing opportunities. But once there's no work, it dries up. People have to go and find other things as well. And that's the way film is.
We always consider it kind of like the Wild West, that if you're good at something, or if you have the passion and there's an opportunity, they already know you're really good at something, they let you start trying different things so you can grow your skill set that way.
Yeah, I've lived with anything.
So is all the work that you do independently contracted, even though you work with them?
We're all contracted. Most of us are, yeah. And pay our own tax. Not that I'm a good accountant at all.
No 401k money?
I'm just going to apply this here. Hope you plan on wearing this for a while.
We're keeping his ID to make sure he comes back. He won't be able to use the ID anyway, it won't work. Any other questions?
What's the hardest part about your job?
Sometimes it's about the closure of the job. So when you're working on a project and you think, oh, at the time you think, oh, I can't wait for it to finish. And then when it starts to finish, you think, oh, I'll still just keep going. But I guess for me, it's about getting it right. Because the show and tell, it's a no, a lot of no's. And then when you get it right, you feel like you're accomplished something. So the hardest thing is about doing what the director likes.
How many passes on a design do you guys go through for the family?
Well, just like if anyone knew Azog was changed at the time, so I created all these streets, and then all of a sudden they're making bald. So after all that, that's kind of the downside. But at the same time, it still makes it it still makes it in books. So as long as I see my work out here.
So Azog started off. Oh, go ahead. You have a question?
For that whole approval process where you're showing and telling and and developing, how long of a pre-process is that?
It could be days, it could be weeks, or it could be just minutes. So yeah, it really depends on how big the project is and how soon you need it for being on set. Sometimes when you're manufacturing, you can take your time, but there's always a deadline. And that's one of the things that become quite difficult to, it's a stressful time.
So this is like the maximum of makeup. Is it harder or easier to minimize a look, I guess? Like if you wanted a nymph that was fresh
elf.
from the something.
Yeah, flawless. All it is just ears and a beautiful wig. That's beautiful. It's flawless. That's what they.
So I guess I'm asking is in that case you work with what the person has and just enhance it? Or?
No, because sometimes we end up having to cut their hair or we end up having to wrap the hair. Everyone wears wigs for this movie, and I haven't seen a lot of. A lot of hair that hasn't been wigged.
Wow.
Yes, sorry.
Which is your favorite look for makeup to do with the
Dwarves.
Hobbit?
They are fun, and when they're in character and they've got their armour on and they act amazing. So, and they're all, these people who are acting for us, they're not. Some of them aren't actors, so this is the great thing. They're all parents and grandparents and 95-year-old people on there. And people bickering, and someone tries an outfit that does somebody's acting. And so it's always one of those things that I look at and I think, oh, that's what makes it fun working with them.
When you do your own makeup, what's been your most outrageous, Halloween costume that you've done yourself?
Drag. That's Halloween. And I arrived at every Hobbit and came on all the red carpets and drag.
Stunning.
I do, yeah. I do that and then I put on the persona but I'm still very nice, I'm not one of those feisty ones.
With digital effects being so big in movies now, have you ever seen a creature in the digital in a movie and said, I could have done that better?
Yeah, we do things like that.
Yes.
What do you use to clean the lace front wigs after?
Isopropyl. There's two different kinds of isopropyl. There's an oil base, which I will use on this. Normally you wouldn't do it. We have been caught with this before, but yeah, I just use that. That's good. Then I can keep touching while people ask me questions. Thanks for all the questions.
Over on the side.
Yeah, have you ever had any extremely costly mistakes that you've made?
Yeah. No.
My first wife.
You should see Mike also do the dolphin dive. Honestly.
The worm. We were
The worm,
on the
sorry.
tent. Yeah, he had given me cornrows and I was in a work costume, and it was like a private party, and they had like the doo-wop singers, and I was doing 17 in the worm. I think they were afraid of me anyway. And then when I started doing that, then my GM was second guessing hiring me.
And I was with all three bosses, all three of them, but then they became good friends. Mike being the best friend, because he brings me cheese.
Am I wrong? Isn't he a rock star? He's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
This is like a speed version of what he does on set. So
I know,
it never gets old watching him do
You
this.
would never do it, yeah, you would. But I mean, all the makeup artists out there, they know what I'm doing. I mean, they do IMAX, people know what, the makeup IMAX. But every makeup artist who works in a film, they all know what I'm doing. And they say, how did you get that job? And I says, well, you've got to be really, really good. And they now, they sort of laugh because they never thought I'd end up wanting to do something like this. This is amazing. And to see everybody in costume.
You say the majority of the actors that you work with are pretty, I would say good patients, but allow you to put on the makeup without many complaints?
No. Always complaints. And it's always the stuntmen. The stuntmen are the most precious. Well, they are, because they're the ones who have to carry all of the actual load, really, when you think about it. Sorry.
How do you kind of deal with the people that are more stubborn and complain a lot when you're trying to put their makeup on?
You go to the next makeup artist and you tell them about it, and then someone else would know them from years ago, so then they always, they behave themselves.
That and smelling salts.
I noticed you're having a little bit of problems with the lip. I was doing something once with my face. Like, how do you account for like the sweat and saliva issue?
And this always happens.
Okay.
Yeah, with all of our dwarves, all of them. The moustaches falling off, and people are in water, like the barrel scenes.
Okay.
That was the worst. I mean, if people could see what we went through, they would be.
Two questions. First, how do you I know that you make hobbit feet kind of to fit on like a slipper maybe? And,
right.
And that's right?
Yes.
And I was wondering how you made them more durable the second time around.
Well, they just like the prosthetic arm that you see on our table that we have over at the booth. That one they'll put on basically like a neoprene sock, and then they can slide into it, and they wear it. But they just it's different densities of materials that they have in the bottom of the sole. But again, those get used once, and then they're destroyed. So they might go through a couple of them depending on the complexity of the scene, or how much climbing they're doing up the mountain, or how hot it is, or how long they've been on their journey.
Have you ever been a director that you will not work with again?
No, to be honest, I'm only really, Mike calls me a rock star. Really, I'm a workshop technician. A technician is someone that enjoys creating things. That's really it. I mean, like, we all dreamed about doing Oscars and that. One day I will. But it's, for me, it's just about the enjoyment of meeting people.
I don't think there's a lot of people that weren't going to get along with it in that.
I was wondering, why are the prosthetics destroyed as opposed to sold for charity? Is it like a copyright or just a trade secret?
Well, it's more about before a movie comes out, you don't want things to get out before that they'll get leaked, and then the second part is there's ownership's and IP rights. So Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema have rights to things that they don't want to get out that way.
So follow up to that, are they destroyed after just one use, or do you mean after one take or one day, or what do you mean?
Well, it just depends. Like the arm we have up on the tabletop is for a fighting scene. So they'll do the fighting scene, they'll pull it off, and they just won't use it again. Because what happens with all the detail in the film these days, and then the frame rates, you see every little detail. So if it's getting scuffed up, like if you look at the one up on the tattooed, starting to wear on where the raised parts on the top of the hand, so you can't use that again. And so they'll take that off, and you'll get little splits and little dings. So they'll have other pieces on set ready to go to replace them.
Are those pieces made from a mold, I'm assuming, or? Okay.
So they'll have an artist or a sculptor create the original, and then they take a casting of that, two-part casting, and then they'll set it up so they can cast the molds from it. Yeah. So then they pull those every day for the different pieces. And then I don't know if you guys have seen the piece on the tabletop, but Warren, another artist, will actually punch hair into those one by one to get the hair, and you have to think about the way it lays and the way it moves. It's consistent from piece to piece. So this is where Warren's expertise on the hair part comes into play. It's not just a beard stuck on, all of a sudden it just becomes that character. Yep.
Can you talk about what it was like seeing, like, on the first movie you worked on, seeing your work off the screen, seeing it for the first time?
A lot of the people, a lot of the people that I work with, they seem to walk out before they even see the credits. Yeah, no one really does it, but some of them, I think they're very modest, but to see it makes me know that I can address it, even if it's on Facebook or media or about it. Which I have a Facebook page as well. I'm not really good at maintaining websites.
How has just different technology advancements changed the way you work throughout your career? In either materials getting better or
yeah,
whatever?
they are getting better a lot of the time. So CNC machines and all that kind of thing, we have our technicians here who design them, and once they are done, they just keep printing. It's constant printing work.